Test.
Wawa has personal pizza for $6.
Wawa has movie night pizza for $8.
Buff. So for PvE, trolls are going to undoubtedly be Biss there. For PvP, it's really close between Orc and Tauren. It's kind of up to you. I'd say the only one where you have a little bit more of an edge with Orc would be Enhancement, but for the reasons we mentioned above. But for Restoration and Elemental, Taurens are very nice. You know, the increased health is always great, especially on a Shaman. And there is kind of a unique interaction between War Stomp and Totems, and a lot of people were sort of advocating for that, saying that the Tauren War Stomp is really, really good with your Totems and just how your Totems interact with the stun. Also, the Shaman Trinket in PvP removes stun, so some people were saying it's kind of a redundant thing to have the 25% chance to resist stuns. But anyway, moving on. Useful add-ons, a swing timer. Every melee class in the game should have a swing timer, but because we're going to be Earthbind kiting, I can't stress the importance of a swing timer. If you're going to download one thing on this list, download the swing timer. It is so important. Just to have good mechanics in the game, you really need a swing timer that tracks both your swing and your enemy's swing. The next thing's kind of quality of life totem module. It's going to help you place your totems down. It's going to have a totem timer, and Chamois buff's kind of the same thing for helping you track your lightning shield charges and weapon buffs, because 5 minutes is not a long time, guys. The next thing is an XP per hour tracker for obvious reasons, and then Outfitter. Outfitter's pretty good because you're going to be toggling to different pieces of gear a lot, you know, switching to spirit pieces if you want to reduce
Bot Rix has correctly joined the channel.
Swapping into heal sets, or maybe even some tanking pieces. So those are some good add-ons. Swing timer add-ons. So I referenced this, just a little more color on what swing timer add-ons are. They are, you can see it down in the bottom right. That's Samuel swing timer. You can see it. So it offers you a visual way to track the natural flow of your auto attacks. So in this little example picture, you can see that this orc just smacked the Planestrider with the staff, right? So he just swung, and now the swing timer is starting to build back up again. And once it reaches full, that means your swing has reset and you're getting ready to swing again. So it's really, really important, and it's going to allow you to not miss damage. You can kite mobs around and trade one hit for one hit, but you have theoretically 0% damage reduction. You don't lose any damage because you're still getting every single auto attack. So now we'll extrapolate a little bit on Earthbind kiting.
If it's worth showing off, it's worth protecting. Add tech coverage to your USAA renter's insurance and help protect your electronics from accidents, spills, and more. Help protect your tech for less. Get a quote today.
Come on in. We can't keep these must-have gifts under wraps any longer.
So from level 6 onwards, you can start Earthbind kiting. That's when you get Earthbind Totem. So even at level 6, Earthbind Totem slows for a whopping 50%. This is equivalent to rank 3 hamstring that warriors get at level 54, because the base hamstring is 40%. So this is a massive slow. It costs very little, 6% of base mana, and it is so freaking good, guys. I mean, let me just show you, let me just give you some examples. Like, you may be thinking to yourself, why would I Earthbind kite? I'll just face tank a little damage, it's fine, I'll just heal right after, you know, I'll just drink, and, you know, I don't feel like getting carpal tunnel syndrome, I don't feel like using all this mental energy to kill mobs. That's fair, but let me just explain why it's so good to potentially Earthbind Kite. So let's use an extreme example. Let's say that you have a weapon that's 3.8 attack speed. That's pretty slow, right? And you're killing a mob that has 2.0 attack speed. That's pretty quick, right? But in this situation, if you're just going to stand there and face tank a mob's damage and just trade back and forth, that mob is going to basically attack you twice while you're attacking it only one time, right? Because it has like half your attack speed. So if you were to Earthbind Kite this mob and trade one hit for one hit, you're looking at a 47.4% damage reduction. Can you imagine walking around the world with a buff that says you take 47.4% less damage? How nutter butters would that be? And let's use a more like realistic example. Let's say you have you're attacking a mob that has 2.4 attack speed, right? Pretty average, pretty low actually. And then you are going to have a 3.6 weapon, pretty average, right? You're still looking at a 33.3% damage reduction. That's crazy. That is so crazy. So, you know, that's going to really move the needle significantly. Now, so how do you do it? How do you Earthbind Kite? So you're going to, you know, buff yourself up, put your weapon buff up, you know, put your lightning shield up, set up your totems, and then you're going to pull. You can pull with a lightning bolt, or a flame shock, or some flame shock, whatever floats your boat. So the mob's going to run over, and it's going to get afflicted by your Earthbind totem. So what you're going to do is you're going to melee the mob. Then right after you connect with your attack, you're going to kind of side strafe through the mob out of range of its hitbox. And ideally, you want to do so in a way where your back is not exposed to the mob, because if your back is exposed to a mob, you're susceptible to the daze mechanic. So that's why you want to kind of side strafe through the mob and just trade one hit for one hit. So again, mobs out in the open world generally have higher movement speed than you, so they can catch you if you're running away, and they have higher or lower attack speed. They have faster attack speed, right? So by doing this, you're negating both of those advantages they have over you, right? So really good. Definitely do it. Earthbind kiting, do that. That is the most important thing to learn from this guide. Start attack macros. This is gonna be important to bake these into your abilities. We're not sure how macros are gonna work in Classic quite yet, but you know, you should have the ability. Hopefully, they just have / start attack, and you can just bake that into your abilities. But it's gonna prevent you from missing damage. So let's say I want to Storm Strike, right? But I don't have mana. If I don't have a start attack macro built in, then I'm going to hit Storm Strike, and I'm just going to be standing there like a numbnuts. I'm not going to be attacking it. I would have to manually right-click the mob and start attacking it. So just baking this into your abilities means that even if you don't have the resources to use the ability, you're still at least going to be auto-attacking it and not missing damage. Alright, combat efficiency. This is where it gets really juicy, guys. So if you're just half awake, sit up. Wash your face. Do whatever you guys do. Come back and listen to this. So I'm going to talk about combat efficiency through the different damage setups you have as a shaman. The most efficient damage setup is a slow two-hander with Rockbiter. A slow two-hander with Rockbiter. Yes, not Wind Fury, with Rockbiter. And this is for a bunch of reasons. So the first thing I'll say compared to Wind Fury is that Wind Fury, you have the potential to overkill the mob. You have the potential to drastically overkill the mob. You don't know when it's going to proc. You don't know if it's going to proc. You could fight a mob and it would never proc. And you're sitting there and you potentially die or take way too much damage or whatever it is. So for multiple reasons, and also Rockbiter scales really well with slow weapons. It's going to be easier to do Earthbind kiting with a slow weapon as well. But anyway, we're gonna show some data that supports this, right? The math will support this. Melderon was kind enough. He had some really good shaman guides, which I will link to, where he's looking at p-values and alpha thresholds, and he's testing these. He's testing Wind Fury. He's testing Rockbiter on slow two-handers, and we'll show some of those results in a second. But anyway, so the most efficient damage setup you have is with a slow two-hander and Rockbiter.
Coming soon, a new Planet Fitness is opening near you. Join before we open and save $5 a month on our most popular
You have access to the Earthbind kiting method, so a slower weapon is going to be better there. It's going to give you less margin for error. If you have a fast weapon, you can kind of Rockbite, you can kind of Earthbind kite, but you're going to have like a tighter strafing window kind of, and you have more of an ability to make a misplay. Also, you're going to get more value out of Storm Strike, because Storm Strike gives you that instant second attack regardless of your weapon speed. So the slower the weapon, the better. You have better value out of parry. So you have when it comes to your parry hasted attack. So if you're a defender, right, and you parry an attack, your next attack is a parry hasted attack, and it scales better with slow weapons. Also, the weapon progression for these slow two-handers is pretty established, and you know what to look for there. And because we're doing Earthbind kiting, we're going to spend less gold potentially on consumables like water and food and stuff. So those are the advantages that come to mind. The second most efficient damage setup you have, believe it or not, is Elemental 40+. The single target kill speed is absolutely insane, but the main disadvantage, and this is a very big disadvantage, is that you can't mitigate damage through Earthbind kiting. You don't have that buff that says reduce damage by 33%. So that's why it's not nearly as efficient overall in my mind. The single target kill speed is crazy though, and then if you do slash sit, if you do slash sit against mobs, and you proc Eye of the Storm, 100% resistance to pushback. It is so good, and this is factoring in drinking time too, guys. So we're gonna look at some of the data that Melderon was able to produce, but even with the drinking time factored in, it was faster than the majority of stuff. It was faster than everything, really. And the only reason why slow two-handed with Rockbiter is going to be better is that you have that damage mitigation. Alright, so the third most efficient is fast one-hander with the shield and Wind Fury. Now this seems kind of counterintuitive, right? You may be thinking Flame Tongue has got to be best, right? You know, fast weapon, you're attacking a lot, you're going to get better value out of Flame Tongue. I always thought Wind Fury is better with slow weapons, right? So doubling up a slow attack. The math doesn't support that. The math supports Wind Fury excelling more when you have more opportunities to proc Wind Fury, so with the fast weapon. So a fast one-hander with a shield and Wind Fury is going to be your best damage mitigation option if you do decide that you're going to face tank the mob and you're not going to Earthbind Kite. If you're not going to Earthbind Kite, then this is probably going to be your go-to. It's less APM intensive, so actions per minute. Tank group content potentially more easy if you have a more up-to-date one-hander and a shield. Anyway, so here is what I'm talking about, what I've been referencing. Here's Melderon's Shaman Guide. There's a link to it right there. He has it's a two-part thing. They are fantastic videos. I honestly have never seen another leveling guide that goes this much in depth when it comes to pure numbers and analyzing the different builds. He's a scientist by profession, so his approach was amazing. It was so open-minded. I learned a ton from this video. Definitely, if you are considering playing Shaman, you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't check out this video. It's really, really good. But here are the graphs that I ripped from his video. We're boys, so he didn't mind. But yeah, so he did these tests on a level 55 Tauren Shaman. He was killing 20 hippogriffs at a time, and he was factoring in drinking and all of that, right? So the times you're seeing here are the time it took to kill 20 hippogriffs. So as you can see, Elemental took 9 minutes 11 seconds, two-handed slow Rockbiter 10 minutes 7 seconds. So you may be thinking, okay, Elemental pulled ahead of two-handed slow Rockbiter, but this is the thing, he wasn't doing the Earthbind kiting method. So with the Earthbind kiting method, where you're literally reducing 33% to potentially 47%, you know, slow two-hander with Rockbiter is going to be the way to go. And also that's going to pertain, you know, before level 40, right? Because the Elemental really only comes online 40+. So as you hear, the hybrid Wind Fury, I should point out. So the third most efficient there actually is with the shield and the dagger. That's not a two-hander. So definitely go watch those videos. So a little more information. Here's some more stuff from his video talking about Shaman weapon buffs, comparing Flame Tongue versus Wind Fury on a fast one-hander. You know, these charts freak me out as much as it probably is freaking you out. But the TLDR is that Wind Fury pulls ahead of Flame Tongue when it comes to one-handers. Also, when it comes to DPME, so that's damage per mana efficiency, it's just, you know, how efficient your spells are, damage to mana. Not how much damage, but the efficiency of each point of mana you're spending, how much damage it's going to produce. So, Lightning Shield is your most efficient mana to damage ability in the game for you as a shaman, right? So even something like Flame Shock, which is really efficient, it's going to do more damage. Flame Shock will do more damage than Lightning Shield, but Lightning Shield will be more pound for pound efficiency when it comes to spending mana and translating that mana into damage. I hope that makes sense, but you can kind of see the different ranks. And another thing I should point out is that when you get the Storm Strike buff, so a 40+, increasing your nature damage, your Lightning Shield does benefit from that.
That happens a lot, but SafeLight could have helped.
So don't let that little chip spoil your trip.
SafeLight repair, SafeLight replace.
I use QuickBooks because it's easy to use software, but I also have access to live experts that can fill in.
Sorry, another sip of coffee here. Okay, Ghost Wolf versus 60% mount. Now, this is a pretty nerdy slide, but I think it's valuable. So from level 40 onwards, you're going to have to make this decision, and the decision is going to be whether you decide to mount up or use Ghost Wolf to get to your next objective. Now, what is the breaking point where it's going to be more efficient to ride your mount? That breaking point is 17 seconds. So there's a 3-second cast time before you mount in vanilla, right? You cast for 3 seconds, then you mount up and you're good to go. So if you plan to ride for 14 seconds or longer upon finishing your 3-second mounted cast time, which effectively nets out to 17 seconds, if you plan to ride for 17 seconds or more, then by all means mount up. But 17 seconds is quite a long time, and if you're not going 17 seconds, it may be better, actually in fact it is better to use Ghost Wolf. You'll get there faster, it'll be more efficient. There are some other considerations. Ghost Wolf will, stop your spirit-based mana regeneration because it is a spell, and you're not able to cooldown is finishing, but something to keep in mind. So shaman-specific tips, we're not going to go over all of these. I'll talk about some of the main ones. So the first one is that you want to drop your totems in a way so that you can get value out of multiple targets with them, right? You don't want to keep dropping your totems for every mob you fight. You kind of want to think ahead, think 2 steps ahead, drop your totems in a way that after you kill mob 1, you can kind of pull mob 2 over to your totems. You can pull mob 3 and 4 over to your totems to get more value out of them, right? It's going to be more mana efficient. It's going to be less annoying. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that totems drop in the exact same pattern every time, like around you. They drop in like a square around you. And based on what type of totem it is, it's going to drop in the same location. So the main one that comes to mind is your fire totem. Knowing where your fire totem is going to drop will help you. It'll allow you to squeeze extra kind of range and value out of it. It'll help you in PvE. It'll also help you in PvP. Like if you know how to kind of jump and drop your magma totem, you might be able to, you might be able to clip a rogue out of stealth and get him out of stealth with a magma totem. So just learn and memorize your locations for totems. Let's see. So yeah, use your rank 1 spells. You can use Earth Shock rank 1 as a low mana interrupt, Frost Shock for rank 1 for its on-demand slow, rank 1 Magma Totem for its for the ability to get the people out of stealth and stuff because it's pretty mana intensive. Fish for clear casting procs. Let's see, out of the totem quests, the water quest is really the most annoying, so you can skip that for like a full 10 levels if you want to come back to it later. Start building out a healing and spirit set early, so keep pieces with high intellect and spirit on them. So you can heal whenever you want. You can also swap into the spirit set and reduce that out of combat time.
I have crafted the totem
stuff like that. So we're not going to go over all of them.
Now,
Shaman tanking. So this is a pretty juicy slide for those of you interested in shaman tanking. Shaman tanking, let me just put a little disclaimer out there, is definitely not my ideal group composition. I'd much rather have like a druid tank actually as part of my bis while leveling. But
I know that
you can do it. It's probably best utilized. As a shaman tank, you're best utilized with a group of friends, like people that you know, people that you know are competent players. You're really on a slippery slope if you're trying to pug as a shaman tank. I'd recommend maybe doing guild runs or something like that. You also kind of want to out gear and out level the dungeons that you're attempting, right? So anyway, the disclaimer's out of the way. I'll start it with a quote. Your mitigation will never be as good as a warrior. Your threat can be better. Your utility can be better. And this is a quote from the legendary Totem Tank. I put a link to his guide and Melderon's guide right below. They wrote really good guides on this topic, but I'll try and break it down for you. So if you're going to be a shaman tank, you basically buff Rockbiter. Rockbiter has a threat component to it, and also Earth Shock has a threat component to it as well. It has a 2x threat multiplier, so if you deal 100 damage with Earth Shock, you're getting 200 threat out of it. So you're pretty much going to buff up your Rockbiter, buff up your Lightning Shield, make sure you got a couple minutes to spare on your Rockbiter because the fights can drag out a bit. You're going to set up your totems, and then if you're 32 plus, you're going to pull with Chain Lightning, which is an awesome way to pull if you think about it. Chain Lightning as a tank is so good. If you don't have Chain Lightning, you can just pull with Lightning Bolt, and then you're going to use max rank Earth Shock on maybe target 2, and then you're going to run up and just club target 3. And then you're going to use Earth Shock on cooldown. The Earth Shock is going to be the closest thing you have to a taunt, so keep that in mind. Rank 1 Earth Shock you should consider your interrupt. Rank 5 should be considered like your Sunder Armor, and rank 7 should be your taunt, but either way you should generally always use max rank Earth Shock. Refresh your Lightning Shield if it's going to be efficient to do so. use your stone skin and agility totems, as they will further help you with mitigation. But just know, man, like being a shaman tank, you will be underestimated. You will be subject to a lot of stigma. People will be hating on you, and just go above and beyond to prove that prove that it can be done. Right? You want to reflect positively on the shaman community. So bring extra consumables, go the extra 9 yards. You do have pretty decent threat generation with the pull. You have some pretty decent avoidance with parry and the additional dodge. So it can be done, guys. It can be done. There are shamans that tank Stratholme, and some like Totem Tank. He believes that the only reason why shamans can't tank even raids is because there's a lack of end gear to support tanking. Moving on. Life levels 1 through 10. It's pretty quick because you can do both range damage and melee damage. You can start using the Earthbind kiting method starting at level 6, which is super early. That comes online super early. You have higher than average single target damage. You have healing. You have an early interrupt with Earth Shock. That's really good. You know, if you're thinking about those voodoo trolls on the Echo Isles, those things are a freaking nightmare. The fact that you have an interrupt early is really, really good. You want to buy a staff at a vendor ASAP, so keep your staff up to date with the vendor staffs if you need to. If you're starting in Valley of Trials, you should have access to a staff pretty quick with the Val Familiar quest. But you know, just keep your staff updated, because you can't use a two-handed axe or a two-handed mace right off the bat as a shaman. If you don't remember, that's a talent, which we'll get into in a second. So the general flow of combat throughout every stage of the shaman leveling is pretty much like this. You're going to front load 1 to 2 casted spells, potentially followed by like an instant cast, like a shock. Then you're going to proceed to melee the mob to death. So train all your skills, and then also resist reapplying Lightning Shield when it falls off right away. You may feel a little trigger happy and you want to reapply it, but just know it's going to stop your spirit-based mana regeneration for the 5-second rule. So oftentimes it's going to be better just to kill the mob and then then save your Lightning Shield reapplication when you do intend to spend your mana in a burst as well. So you always want to spend your mana in bursts as a shaman.
So, I like honey barbecue, you like honey barbecue. I like football, I think you like football.
Moving on. Life 10 to 30, you're going to integrate Searing Totem into your rotation. Searing Totem comes online, and it's good. It's even if you're just up against one mob, it's still worth it to drop Searing Totem. And then you would Lightning Shield, drop your Earthbind, Searing Totem, and then you would pull Flame Shock. If you have the mana to support it, you can even start with a Lightning Bolt into a Flame Shock. Then you're going to melee the mob to death. You get Ghost Wolf, so you can escape with Ghost Wolf at this stage. That's going to be your main bread and butter escape. You're going to drop an Earthbind, go into Ghost Wolf, run out. Also, you're going to get Reincarnation, so buy Onks. Those are the reagents for your Reincarnation spell. It's not going to work without the reagent. 30 to 40, it's pretty similar. You'll have access to Wind Fury weapons, so if you're using a one-handed weapon, use Wind Fury. If you got a two-hander, you can use Rockblader. 40 to 60. So 40 to 60, you have Storm Strike, so things are going to change a little bit. Storm Strike is pretty mana intensive, so you're going to just have to feel it out at the end of the day, but you may want to consider not using your shocks anymore. I think the priority is to preserve your totems and then shocks, so if you had to cut one or the other, you'd probably want to keep your totems up and remove shocks from your rotation. So you're going to put Lightning Shield on, put your totems down, and then you're going to run up, and you're going to run up and melee the mob, followed by a Storm Strike, and then just kind of Storm Strike on cooldown. Or you can, if you can support it, then you can throw in the shock there as well. That's the only other thing. Okay, so we're going to talk about talent builds now. So the first talent build I'm going to present to you is a two-handed Storm Strike Enhanced Elemental build. Now, this is what I personally believe to be the fastest way to 60. If you have the time, energy, resolve, for whatever reason, maybe you hate leveling, you want to get to 60 as soon as possible, this is the build that I recommend you going. So the first assumption we have here is that from 10 to 20, the early talents in enhancement are going to do very little for you. You're going to be using a two-hander, so the improved shield spec is not going to do anything for you, and then the 5% mana, excuse me, the 5% mana that you get through the other one is very lackluster. It feels so bad, man, putting 5 talent points into that for 5% mana. That's not even one spell. So Elemental offers you much better value in the early stages from 10 to 20. So from 10 to 20, we're going to put points into the Elemental tree, going down to clear casting, and then at 20, we're going to respec back to enhancement to get improved Ghost Wolf. So we're gonna go over to the talent calculator now, and I'll walk you through the order of operations. so you are level 10 and you are ready to invest those juicy talent points. I'm going to walk you through 10 to 20 and then the respec and then